Everyone learns the same thing about the Civil War. The Pickett's charge was a hopeless, suicidal assault. 12,000 men sent across open ground to die. But that version of the story is incomplete. Because for several critical minutes on July 3, 1863, the Union center at Gettysburg was breaking. And if a handful of decisions had gone differently, not miracles, not genius, just timing and support, Pickett's charge might have succeeded. The popular image is simple. Confederate troops advance across 3/4 of a mile. Union artillery tears them apart. The survivors reach a stone wall, are repulsed, and the war's turning point is sealed. It feels inevitable, clean, morally satisfying. But history rarely works that way. Battles are not decided by destiny. They're decided by smoke, confusion, fatigue, and minutes ticking by. And Gettysburg, by July 3rd, was already stretched to its limits. By the morning of July 3rd, both armies were exhausted. Union forces under George G. Meade had fought 2 brutal days. Their center, along Cemetery Ridge, was thinner than it appeared. On the Confederate side, Robert E. Lee believed something critical: that the Union flanks had held, but the center was vulnerable. Not weak, but tired. And he wasn't wrong. At 1 p.m., Confederate guns opened what may have been the largest artillery barrage in North American history. Nearly 2 hours of thunder. The traditional story says it failed. But here's the problem with that claim. Smoke blanketed the ridge. Visibility collapsed. Union gunners, low on ammunition, deliberately stopped firing. To Confederate observers, it looked like success. Union guns silenced. The moment arrived. This wasn't reckless optimism. It was a reasonable conclusion based on the information available. Around 3 p.m., Confederate infantry stepped forward. Not in a wild rush, but in disciplined lines. Nearly 12,500 men, advancing under fire. And despite the brutal carnage, they kept moving. Gaps closed, flags stayed upright, momentum held. This matters, because attacks don't succeed by avoiding casualties. They succeed by maintaining cohesion through them. And astonishingly, they did. Near a bend in the stone wall, later called the Angle, the impossible happened. Confederate troops breached the Union line. Union artillery crews were overrun. Officers shouted contradictory orders. For several minutes, command and control failed locally. Brigadier General Lewis Armistead crossed the wall, hat on his sword, urging his men forward. This was not symbolic. This was penetration. Historians later called it the high water mark of the Confederacy, because the tide actually reached the shore. So why didn't it hold? Not because the attack was impossible, because nothing followed it. No fresh reserves, no second wave to widen the breach, no cavalry exploiting the moment. Union reinforcements, arriving from nearby positions, sealed the gap. The window closed, not in hours, not in days, in minutes. If the center had collapsed, Lee wouldn't have won the war, but Meade's army might have been shattered. Washington threatened, Northern morale shaken. Foreign recognition, already debated, might have tipped. History doesn't hinge on certainty. It hinges on possibility. And at Gettysburg, that possibility was real. Pickett's charge doesn't prove Confederate arrogance. It proves something more unsettling, that wars and nations can turn on smoke, timing, and whether help arrives fast enough. It wasn't doomed, it almost worked. And that's what makes Gettysburg unforgettable.